It was just another Thursday night in the quiet suburb of Maplewood, Ohio. The kind of place where nothing really happened and the streets grew silent by 10 p.m. My name is Madison Carter, and if someone had told me that night would turn into one of the most confusing, emotional, and shocking nights of my life, I would have laughed and told them they'd been watching too many mystery shows. I had gone to bed early, around 9:30 p.m. My husband, Ethan, was away on a work trip in Chicago, and the house felt eerily silent without him. Still, I was used to sleeping alone during his travels. Our golden retriever, Milo, lay curled up by my feet as I scrolled through my phone for a few minutes, checking messages and watching a couple of funny videos before finally drifting off. I don't know what time it was when I first stirred awake, but it was dark, completely dark. I wasn't sure why I woke up. There was no loud noise, no light, no storm. Just an odd feeling, like my body knew something I didn't. I blinked a few times, disoriented, and reached for the glass of water on my nightstand. Milo was gone. That was strange. He usually stayed with me the entire night unless he heard something outside. I sat up, rubbing my eyes and listening. The house was quiet, too quiet. Not even the usual creaks or distant hums. Just silence. I slid out of bed and grabbed my robe, suddenly feeling vulnerable in my nightgown. As I stepped into the hallway, I called softly, "Milo?" No response. I descended the stairs, avoiding the squeaky step near the middle, and headed into the kitchen. The back door was unlocked. My heart skipped a beat. I was certain I'd locked it before going to bed. Panic prickled under my skin. I closed the door quietly and locked it, trying not to freak myself out. Milo was probably just in the living room or hallway. Maybe I forgot to lock the door. I turned and nearly screamed. There was a shadow by the couch, but it was just Milo, wagging his tail slowly. He looked up at me, and for a moment I calmed. Then I noticed it. The front door. It was wide open. Every nerve in my body screamed. I rushed to it, heart racing, and shut it instantly. I flipped the lock and then the deadbolt, breathing heavily. Had someone been in the house? Was someone still in the house? I reached for my phone, but of course, I'd left it charging upstairs. Gathering every ounce of courage, I told myself it had to be an accident. Maybe the wind. Maybe I hadn't latched it right. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. I made my way back up the stairs with Milo close behind me. I turned on the hallway light, then entered the bedroom. My phone was still charging on the nightstand. I checked the time. 2:47 a.m. I was about to call the police when I noticed a notification on my screen. A text. From Ethan. It read, "Mads, who's that man in the kitchen? I just saw someone behind you on the camera." My breath caught in my throat. I had completely forgotten. Ethan had installed a motion detection security camera in the living room facing the kitchen, connected to our phones. I turned around slowly. The kitchen was behind me just down the hall, but it looked empty. I didn't hear anything. Another message came through. "I'm calling the police. Get out of the house. Now." I grabbed my phone, shoved my feet into the first pair of shoes I found, and ran to the bedroom window. We lived in a two-story house, and jumping wasn't an option, but the roof outside the window led down to the porch. I opened the window, heart pounding in my ears, and crawled out. Milo hesitated but followed. We scrambled down the porch roof and onto the front lawn. I sprinted across the street to my neighbor's house and banged on the door. Mr. Lewis, an older retired veteran who lived alone, answered with a bat in his hand. "I think someone's in my house," I gasped. Ethan saw it on the security feed. "He's calling the cops." Mr. Lewis didn't hesitate. He ushered me inside, locked the door, and handed me a blanket. I sat on his couch, shivering, not from cold, but from fear. Minutes later, 2 police cruisers pulled up in front of my house. I watched from the window as the officers approached with flashlights drawn, one with a K9. They entered. I waited. 10 minutes passed. One officer came out, shaking his head. Nothing. No one. The house was empty. They told me they'd searched every room and corner. Nothing seemed out of place, no sign of forced entry. I was dumbfounded. Was it my imagination? But what about the open doors? Ethan's message? One of the officers asked to see the camera footage. I pulled up the app on my phone and played back the video from earlier. There it was. At 2:41 a.m., a man in a dark hoodie stepped into the kitchen, his face barely visible. He stood for a moment, looking around, then moved out of frame. Milo barked once, but quickly stopped. A few seconds later, the man was gone. They rewound the footage frame by frame, but couldn't tell where he had gone. They suspected he may have exited through the basement door, which I hadn't even thought to check. They stayed another hour, dusted for prints, and took statements. I gave them the best description I could. But honestly, I hadn't seen him myself. By the time Ethan got on a video call, the sun was coming up. He looked pale, shaken. I saw him, Madison. I was just checking the feed randomly. I almost didn't. But then I saw someone walk behind you. He was watching you. I didn't sleep for 2 days. We installed a full security system, replaced every lock, and added sensors to every door and window. Ethan cut his trip short and came home the next day. But the unease didn't go away. 3 nights later, something else happened. I woke up to a faint scratching noise. I grabbed my phone, heart pounding again. It was 3:18 a.m. Milo barked softly, but didn't move. I turned on the camera feed. There was a new video. This time, the man didn't enter the house. He stood at the front porch, staring into the camera for exactly 40 seconds, his face clearer than ever. I could see now, he wasn't just any stranger. He was someone I knew. Years ago, back in college, I had dated a guy named Dean Cooper. We were together for a little over a year. He was charming but possessive. When we broke up, he didn't take it well. I remember him telling me, "You'll always be mine." At the time, I brushed it off as heartbreak. But seeing his face now, outside my home in the dead of night, sent chills through my bones. I sent the footage to the police immediately. They recognized him and said Dean had recently been released from a mental health facility. He wasn't supposed to leave the county, let alone come to Ohio. A restraining order was filed, and they began a search for him. The weeks that followed were tense. I barely went outside. Ethan worked from home. Milo didn't leave my side. Every creak in the house, every flicker of a light, every distant footstep made me jump. I was constantly on edge. 2 weeks later, Dean was found in an abandoned house 3 blocks from ours. He had pictures of me, old letters, and notes scribbled about reuniting. He was taken into custody without incident and transferred to a secure facility. They assured me he wouldn't be getting out again. Life slowly returned to normal. But I've never slept quite the same since. I double-check every lock. I keep my phone next to me at all times. And sometimes late at night I wake up for no reason at all.